In this video, we're going to be looking at when it's appropriate to use Google Forms. Now, Google Forms are a way of generating surveys, questionnaires, quizzes, and polls on the computer. So we don't have to type them up into a Word document and print them out and send them. We can actually create them, send a link in an email, or put it onto a Google Classroom, for example, and somebody will be able to carry out that survey. It could even be put onto a QR code and printed out, which then the QR code can be scanned, the person's taken to the form, and they complete it. Now, it's a really useful way of collecting information from either a small group of people or a very large group of people. One of the best things about Google Forms is that when you've actually sent it out and it's been filled in by somebody, the results can automatically be put into a spreadsheet where you can carry out some analysis, and we'll look at that in more detail in later videos. And actually, Google Forms automatically generates bar charts and pie charts for your questions automatically. So it's a really simple and easy way to collect information and then be able to see the results in a simplified way. So anything that involves data collection, as I say, from a large group of people or even a small group of people, Google Forms is the way to go. In this video, we're going to be looking at how to create and set up the basics of your Google form. So all we need to do is go to Drive and go to the folder where you need to save and create your Google form. So I've gone to my Documents and ICT folder. Remember, it's so important to name your files and folders correctly so that you can easily navigate to them when you need to use them. So as with any Google application, I can go to New. With Forms, I need to choose More and then choose Google Forms. And what we're looking at doing is creating a survey for public transport in Newport, which is going to look like this. So here's the title. Here's the description of the form, which just gives the user a bit of information about what they're going to be seeing. And then we've got the theme. So I've got a picture of Friars Walk and a Newport transport bus in the background. So this is all really, really easy to do. So I go into my Google form and I'm going to call it Public Transport in Newport. Now for the description of my form, I'm just going to copy and paste what I've done here. But it says, the aim of this survey is to try and improve the public transport services in Newport. Please answer the questions honestly based on your experiences with public transport in Newport. And that is as simple as creating your title and your description. So now let's get on to the theme and making it look like this. And it's often good to change the theme. It just makes it look a little bit more interesting. And it does make it look more professional. So on my form, if I could go to the theme icon here, and what I can do is, if I want, I can simply just choose a very basic background color. Or if I want to choose an image, I can either choose examples that they've already given you here as default. Some of them are animated, some of them aren't. Or you can just choose to upload your own. So I've already saved these images, which I'm going to use, and I'm going to just double click on Newport Transport. And I can change the area of the photo that it takes up. I'm going to make it a bit smaller if I want. So whatever I change it to is what will actually appear on the form. So I'm going to try and get as much of that in as I can. Press select, and then it'll take a couple of seconds and your form theme will be created. And that's all you need to do. It's very, very simple, but it does make it look a lot better, a lot more professional, and a lot more eye-catching. In this video, we're going to be looking at creating a linear scale question and also making questions required. Now, if there's a specific piece of information that you really need to get from somebody, you need to make the question a required question, which means that they can't leave the form without actually answering that question. So it's a really, really useful tool to be able to use in Google Forms. And we're going to have a look at the linear scale question, which looks like this. So this is where we're talking about on a scale of 1 to something. This is my example here. On a scale of 1 to 5, how often is transport late? Now to create this question is really, really simple. My untitled question here is going to be this. I'm just going to copy and paste it to make it a little bit quicker. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, how often is transport late? And you can change the type of question that it is. We're going to have a look at all of these in the different videos, but the one that we're going to choose here is linear scale. And you can label what 1 represents, because sometimes people put 1 to 5 and don't explain what 1 is and what 5 is. So as you can see here, mine is never and always. So, never, always. And you can change this to be any number that you want, but I'm going to choose 1 to 5. So there's my linear scale question completed. It's as simple as that. And then to make it required, and this works for any type of question, all I have to do is click this radio button, which turns it from off to on. And that is how you create a linear scale question. Really, really simple. In this video, we're going to be looking at setting up a multiple choice question, where we give the user a set list of choices that they can choose from to answer the question. So we're going to be looking at creating a simple multiple choice question and also adding images and a video to a multiple choice question so that the user can answer questions based on what they've seen. So if I go to my untitled form here, what I need to do is click on Add Question. And you just need to make sure that you've got multiple choice selected. You could also do this with a drop-down list. It works in the same way, but I'm going to choose multiple choice. And I'm just going to have a look at these examples here. These are all multiple choice questions where the user just picks the answer from a set of options. So the one that I'm going to use is this. Do you use Newport Transport buses? So I'm going to copy that question over to here. And option 1, I'm simply going to type yes. The other option that I give them is going to be no. And that is all you need to do to set up a multiple choice question. The question that you put here could be anything, and your list of choices can go on and on and on. You can give as many as you like. So that's a really simple way of setting up a multiple choice question. And if I need it to be required, I click the radio button. But let's have a look now at a question where we may want the user to answer questions based on the images that they see or a video. So I'm going to go to Add Question, make sure that it's multiple choice. And the question this time is, which of the following bus designs would you prefer to see on Newport Transport buses? So the first one is going to be all green. The second option is going to be green and white. And you can see the little icon here for Add Image. So if I go to the all green image that I want, choose the image and select the all green bus. Then I do the same for green and white, choose an image to upload and choose the green and white option, like so. And now my question is done. But I can actually, if I make that a required question, if I go to Add Question, I've got Add Video here. So if I click on Add Video, now I've found a link for a video about Newport Transport buses. So if I go to URL, select video, and paste that URL, I can press Select. Now, the video is shown here. The video isn't actually part of the question, but what I can do is if I then click Add Question, in this question I could say, in the video above, and then add my question and the options so that they can watch the video and then answer the questions underneath. So there's some really simple ways there of using multiple choice questions, and the video and images can be added into other types of questions or question types as well. In this video, we're going to be looking at using questions in a Google form that require the user to choose an option or an answer from a drop-down list. Now this is the same as a multiple choice question. The only difference is that it looks different. So rather than having a list of options, they click on the drop-down list and then see the options. So it's not massively different, but we'll look at how to create them anyway. So if I go to my public transport Google form, the question that I've used, you can see that its drop-down list is what is your age? And I've given a list of choices that they can choose. So this is what a multiple choice question looks like. And this is what a drop-down menu looks like. Now the only real difference is that a drop-down menu makes the whole form look a little bit smaller and a little bit tidier because you don't see all of the options. You have to choose from the list. So again, you can see here this question looks a lot smaller than this question, even though it's got the same number of options that can be chosen for the answer. So let's have a look how to set it up. So the question is, what is your age? So I'll copy that across to here. So if I go to add question to get a new question, all I do is choose drop down. The question's there, and then I can just put my options underneath here, the same as we do with a multiple choice question. And then if you need to make it required, you press required. And you should end up with something that looks like this. So that's a nice, simple, easy way to do another type of multiple choice question. In this video, we're going to be looking at an important part of your Google form. Now, once you've set up all of the questions and you want to send it out to somebody else or to a large group of people, you need to change a few things. So the Google form won't automatically collect the email address of whoever you've sent it to. So if you want that, you need to set it up. We can also set it so that we can limit it to each person. They can only have one response, which is quite useful because otherwise people might deliberately send you lots and lots and lots of different responses, meaning that your results won't be accurate. And also we're going to show you how to shuffle the question order and add a progress bar so that the user can essentially just see how far through the form they are. And the shuffle in the question order is quite useful because if you've got a group of people sat together who are all answering the same, particularly if they're doing a quiz, then you don't want them to necessarily be on the same question at the same time and all just giving the same response. So let's go into our Google form here. And what I want to do is first of all change the settings. So if I go into the settings icon here, and it's as simple as doing this. Collect email addresses and also limit to only one response per person. You can also allow them to edit after they've submitted if you want to and see summary charts and text responses. So that's all I'm going to do there. I'm going to save those options there. And now shuffle the question order and add a progress bar. So when I go into my settings and go to presentation, I just literally tick the box to show a progress bar. Sometimes it's nice for people to be able to see how far through the questionnaire they are or the survey, because sometimes they might be thinking, oh, how many more questions are there to answer? And it can become frustrating. You can then shuffle the question order so that they'll get them in a random order. Sometimes that's appropriate, sometimes it's not, but you have to determine whether or not it is appropriate. And you can also change the confirmation message at the end when they've actually completed the form. So it could be just thank you, or as it says here, your response has been recorded. That's up to you. And you press save, and that is all you need to know. In this video, we're going to be looking at analysing the results of your survey and questionnaire, because ultimately that's the most important thing. So when you collect your responses, you need to be able to analyse them, because without analysing them, it's pointless having actually done the form in the first place. So first of all, we're going to look at how to view the responses that have automatically been formatted for you by Google. So if you go into your Google form, now I've sent my form out to 19 people, and these are the responses. And as you can see, each question has already been put into charts for me to make it really easy for me to see the different responses that I've had. So that's a really nice way of being able to do it. Look at your information. You can have a look at the individuals who sent it through. And you can just scroll through those, as many as you need. But essentially it's the summary that's the most important part. Now the next bit that we're going to look at is how to automatically generate a spreadsheet with the responses if you want to do more in-depth analysis. So the way that we automatically create a sheet is by doing this. If you click on your responses page, you'll see a Google Sheets icon by here. If you create spreadsheet, and if you create a new spreadsheet, it will automatically put the name of your form in there to make it easier for you, so you know exactly which form that this spreadsheet is for. You press create, and this automatically is created here. And then as people submit their forms, the time will come up. If you've chosen to collect the email address, that will come up there, and then all of the different responses. And all you have to do then is simply analyze your data. So if you're wondering where does this sheet go and how do you actually access it, well, if I go into my documents folder where my actual Google form is, the spreadsheet that's been generated or created is automatically put into the same folder, which makes it really easy to locate in the future, and you don't have to set it up yourself, which is absolutely fantastic. So that's the way that we can look at and analyze the different responses for our Google form. In this video, we're going to be having a further look at analyzing the results of your Google form. Now, this is going to be focusing more on using Google Sheets from where you've automatically collected the responses into a separate spreadsheet. So the way that we do this is, if I go into my Google Sheet, all of the responses come up on the form responses page. But as you can see, I've actually separated these into separate tabs. So I've got the age question here with some analysis with charts and how many of each response there were. And I've also done the same for the punctuality. Now to get these responses into a separate sheet is really, really simple. You click the plus icon to add a new sheet. I'm going to call this, so I right click and rename how often used, because I'm going to be looking at the how often public transport is used a week question. So now I've got this tab ready. I go into the form responses and I literally highlight all of the answers, including the heading for that question. Go into my how often used tab. I can click in cell A1, Control V to paste it, and there's my responses. Nice and easy. Now, as you can see here, the text goes beyond column A. So what I'm going to do, hover between column A and B, and I'm going to double click so that now column A stretches out to fit all of that text. And then in the next video, what we're going to look at is actually analyzing this data. In this video, we're going to be looking at using two different types of functions to help analyze our data. So we're going to be using the COUNTA function to find how many responses we've had, and we're going to use the COUNTIF function to find how many of each response we had. So this will become clearer when I show you the example. So in my Google Sheet, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the COUNTA function. So I'm going to use equals COUNTA, and I'm going to open the brackets. I'm going to select all of my responses and close brackets and press enter. And as you can see, it's told me that there were 19 responses here. Now it's important, do not include the heading, otherwise it will include that as a response, and then the answer here would say 20, which would be incorrect. So don't include your heading. Now, the COUNTIF function is a really, really clever function and really, really useful function to help us analyze our data. Now, although we've only got a small amount of data here, you've got to understand that functions are much better than just going through and counting it yourself individually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because we might not have 19 responses. We might actually have thousands of responses, in which case going through and doing that is going to take a long time, and I guarantee you'll make mistakes. So using the COUNTIF function is really simple. We simply start our function with equals COUNTIF, and we open the brackets. Every function opens brackets. So equals COUNTIF, highlight all of your responses, and put a comma. Now, the way that this function works is simply like this. You're saying COUNTIF between A2 and A20, it says every day in speech marks. Now remember to type it exactly as you've done in the questionnaire. It must be exactly the same. So I need a lowercase d there, every day. And because I've opened brackets, I need to close them. And you can see that it's gone through and it said, right, okay, well, I'll look at the range of data that you told me, which is A2 to A20, and I'll count if it says every day. So if we look at the response for the same for often, equals COUNTIF, open brackets, select all of the responses and put a comma, and in speech marks I need to say often, close brackets, and you can see the answer is 5. And that works exactly the same for occasionally and never. You just replace the word that goes in between the speech marks. In this video, we're going to be looking at creating a bar chart to display data that you've collected in your Google form. So if I go into my Google Sheet, and this is the information that I want to go into my bar chart. Now it's really, really simple. All I do is highlight all of that data, and I go to Insert, and I'll choose Chart. And there we are. It's automatically put it into a lovely chart for me. It's accurate. There's no mistakes. But what I do need to do is actually label it. So I'm going to go to Customize, and I'm going to choose Chart and Axis Titles. And what I'm going to do is name the chart title. I've just copy and pasted the question in. So now it says, on a scale of 1 to 5, how often is transport late? And you can do lots of other different things. You can change the font size and style and all that sort of stuff and format it as you'd like. You can make it as complex or as simple as you like. Now, one thing I do like to do is that I can see the numbers are shown here, but what I do like to do, if I go to Edit Chart and I click on the blue bars here, if I go down to Data Labels here, it'll simply add in the exact number so that it's easier for me to see. And that is a really simple way of creating a bar chart. In this video, we're going to be looking at creating a pie chart from the data that we've collected in our Google form. Now, if you've made a bar chart in Google Forms, making a pie chart is pretty much exactly the same process. It's dead simple, really, really easy, but it is a nice, effective way of actually analyzing your data. So all I do is highlight the headings and the data that I want to go into my chart. I go to Insert and I choose Chart. Now it automatically defaults to a bar chart. So what I'm going to do, click on the drop-down menu and choose Pie Chart. And realistically, all that's missing from this is an appropriate heading. So if I go to Customize, I can choose to go to Chart and Axis Titles. And the chart title is simply going to be the question that came from the Google form. And now I can resize that to make it a bit smaller and fit it over here with my other chart. And it's as simple as that. If you do want to customize it, you can click on the 3 dots there and go to Edit Chart. And there's lots of different customization that you can use where you can change colors and fonts and where the labels are, etc. But as long as you know the basics on how to set one up, that's the most important thing.